Now, it's time to explore the multiverse. On the Ninja Troll DigiCast.
All right, we've been kind of exploring this concept for a while because Mike is kind of new to DC Comics, reading DC Comics, and one thing you have to deal with DC Comics is the multiverse. There's been so many years that these characters have been around. There's been so many different editors and writers and artists who want to do their own thing. So the way they've gotten around that is said, oh, well, this is a different Earth. This is an Earth where Superman's old. This is an Earth where he's really young. He's Superboy. So they've been able to, and there's been, I was reading some of this other stuff that there's a change in editor, and they just go, okay, all that stuff that they did for the past 10 years, that's gone. We're not gonna. So it's like
it's true. There's so sort of stepping back, the overall logic that I'm seeing at this point. So we read this week the first real crisis story that had the word crisis in it.
Yeah.
Which was Justice League of America, Volume 1 from 1963, numbers 21 and 22, right? Which is Crisis on Earth 1 and Crisis on Earth 2.
Yeah. 22. 21 was Crisis on Earth 1, and of course the follow-up, the next issue was Crisis on Earth 2.
Which now I hear the genius in the numbering. I'm excited.
There you go.
But so we're sort of at this point now where we're looking back. I had jumped in. Timmy had loaned me Crisis on Infinite Earths. I really didn't know what was going on or why all of us had to come back together.
By that point, there was so much going on. There were so many characters in there that, I mean, even me, who's read DC Comics, was going, who is that? Where'd they come from?
But it's really interesting that they use this. It's now become canon in the DC universe that these very practical editorial and sometimes impractical editorial choices were made to preserve characters, right, and to sort of weave them in. And how do you do that, right? It's like that's a great sort of literary question: is how do you make that happen?
Yeah.
So we're going back and we're looking. We started with Flash of Two Worlds. We just read this one, which is interesting because each story seems to give a new detail or a new sort of truth about the multiverse, which I think sort of culminates, which we're going to be heading in a few weeks towards, 1985, 1986 Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah,
right. Sort
of that's kind of the ultimate crossover, multiverse story.
Totally.
Yeah.
That brings them all together.
Yeah, that's where and it collapsed them all. Yeah. Until they uncollapsed them. So, but they tend to do that. They collapse them, and then it slowly gets back out.
Yeah.
But I just love the cover. It's basically a seance to contact the other Earth. They're all holding the Justice League's all holding hands.
Unbelievable.
Look at them.
Yeah,
Isn't that cute?
Because it's interesting that they're taking these writers are taking their first crack, Gardner Fox, at trying to explain how do we sort of do this, right? And this is like 63 is like we're not high tech science sort of literate people yet, right? I mean we got space exploration, but that's
it was all it was. I mean, how they did pretty much everything was magic.
Yeah, it was always the explanation. So I kind of roll my eyes at magic, like, oh boy, especially when there's a seance and things.
Yeah, exactly. They had this crystal ball that they had gotten from some villain they had defeated.
Merlin,
yeah.
Yeah,
and so let's just have a seance to contact but they're not dead.
No.
It's another Earth. So.
I know, right. It's like so what I did was if you go over to the Ninja Troll Facebook page, I posted the sort of sketch note that I created that goes through this, and I tried as best I could. It got a little messy. This one was a very complicated story.
Yeah, this one was
things a couple times.
Yeah, Flash of Two Worlds was easy. It was one issue, and one he went because Barry Allen was the only one that went anywhere.
Right, and then Jay at the end says, "That's a good trick. I'll learn to do that."
Yeah.
Right, which comes to fruition because so basically these. So we sort of learn that the Fiddler, right, who is an Earth 2 JSA villain, learns how to sort of create sound that gets them to transport, right? So he figures that out, right, sonically. So that's like one way that very much mimics Barry Allen's experience.
Yeah, and it continues the vibration theme
Method.
of how they're that the two Earths basically exist in the same place, but on different vibrations.
Exactly.
So,
And the Crime Champions, which is an excellent
Yes.
name, the same on both worlds. The Fiddler, Icicle, and the Wizard basically create this sort of what they call the misty borderlands.
yes,
That is in between the Earths. And at first, it's a very just convenient hideout, right? They just can sort of disappear there, and it's all good.
they steal something and they go there. Yeah,
And no one knows except the Flashes
Yeah.
that place exists. So what's their first thing is they capture the Flashes.
yeah,
Right? Fiddler creates these sort of bubbles that makes it Jay Garrick and Barry Allen cannot escape. So their plan is continued, right? The heroes have no idea where any one of them are. But like in any good villain story, they get cocky, they get sloppy, that sort of things. All right. So there's so many bad sort of references in here. Like
Yeah.
they call something the portable vibrator.
yeah.
And there's just a lot of bad.
It's the '60s. It was an innocent time.
It really was an innocent time. Things would not fly today as far as how these things go. So the Fiddler, right? We want to make sure that he's like a known multiverse early traveler, right? He's
Yeah.
somebody who can really sort of make things happen. But then on the other side, you have Kronos, who is an Earth 1 villain who like makes time bombs and stuff.
Earth One is
Justice League.
is the Justice League, the Silver Age Justice League.
Right.
Earth 2 is the Justice Society that existed in the 40s, although it's still at the same time. So they're a little older.
Right.
So
Right. And this has been some time, right? Like I think the Flashes even remark that they look a little older.
yeah, it said it's 12 years since they had been together to fight crime.
Right, for the previous story.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And then basically, like, there's this casino town, USA, that they go to.
That's the one of the things with DC. They wanted to stay, rather than saying, oh, they're going to Las Vegas,
Right.
they wanted to use fictional names. So, like, whereas in Marvel Comics, Spider-Man was swinging through the buildings in New York.
Mm-hmm.
You live in New York, you knew where he was.
Right.
Whereas you were at Gotham City, Metropolis,
Central City,
Keystone,
Coast.
Yeah, Coast City,
Jump.
Casino City.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just a little weird.
Yeah. But basically they're trying to, and it's an old story, so they all steal $1 million, and then they try to figure out, well, how can I spend it? So the villains switch Earths and then go and spend their money.
Yeah, and they say that that they're not known in the other Earths, so they'll go over there and they can be fine to spend their
Do
money.
things, yeah.
So
they run amok, and I think it's one of the Felix Faust says, let's challenge the JLA again and beat them again.
Showdown.
Yeah, it's a showdown this time. So
how did you do that?
right, you're riding on top of the world.
Yeah.
Man. Just calm down. Yeah. So that's his, sort of ultimate sort of befuddlement that takes him down. So essentially they have a bit of a battle, and then magic starts to now take over and become part of this, and they trap the JLA in their Earth 1 headquarters, and they're stuck there.
Yeah.
So they're like, what do we do? The Atom can't shrink down to escape. Martian Manhunter and Superman can't see through the wall. Mm-hmm. So they've tried everything and they just can't.
Because it's magic. That's the thing. That was one of Superman's and Martian Manhunters. That's one of their weaknesses is they can't deal with magic.
Yeah.
So
it prevents them from doing anything and being super or Martian.
Or Martian, yeah.
So Batman says, all of a sudden, I got a great idea. Because the way that Felix Faust challenges the JLA first to this battle is through the crystal ball. So he calls them through the crystal ball. And then Batman says, hey, why don't we use the crystal ball to call the Flash? Because we don't know where he is, so let's do that.
But he's not dead.
So I guess not, So they hold hands, And they have this seance, and they get the Flash. They get him on crystal ball vision.
Yep.
Yeah, apparently he's got the crystal ball watch, and it's all good. And then they catch up and learn, and then he says, well, you can, with this same crystal ball, call the Justice Society. They exist, by the way.
Yeah.
And they say, okay.
And they don't talk about reading their comic books.
No.
They left that behind because that was the thing that originally the Flash of Two Worlds, it was
Barry read Jay's comic.
Because the way they explained that was that some people could connect to those other worlds, but they dreamed them.
Right.
So they would write fiction about Earth 2.
About Earth 2.
But it was real.
Right.
So, yeah.
So a secondary graphic that I started working on was like ways to cross between the worlds. Mm-hmm. So that was the first one, was dreams and creativity, right? And Gardner Fox is given that credit. Vibrational powers, right? Flash exhibits that first. And then Fiddler follows
also,
second. Yeah, with his violin and his portable vibration device. And then we see Magic, right? So Magic is now unfolded.
Magic can do that, yeah.
So Felix Faust, Dr. Fate can both cross the barriers, the vibrational barrier, and then via like Merlin's crystal ball.
Yeah.
So so the JSA and the JLA meet for the first time, and it's like a historic meeting, and nobody's freaked out, and everybody's really good.
Yeah.
And then immediately from there, the Green Lanterns go. So that's unexplained. That's an off-camera thing. Is the Green Lanterns don't ever show us how they cross the vibrational barrier.
Yeah, they just go and find the Flash, the Flashes.
Right.
But yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that's all completely off camera. They don't show how they cross.
However, later when the JLA and the JSA are stuck in like space prisons, I think you saw that image. They essentially the Flash says to the Green Lanterns, "Hey, if you guys either shrink down or vibrate, like you can do this." So that I think the Green Lanterns mimic that.
Yeah, the Atom couldn't
break through because his cell was made to block him.
It was made to block him, exactly. But they, I'm sorry, I was flipping through the issue, and there's at one point Wonder Woman spins like a drill.
Through the ground.
Yeah, she drills through the ground.
That's an amazing part.
That happens.
Well, when Green Arrow gets spun so fast that he basically like just can shoot arrows in every direction. I will say though, in issue, so you were smart and got the Comixology version.
Yes.
I went to Heroes, and I wish I had been a little wiser. I bought this archival edition just for those two comics. It came with 4 comics. This was $50 for this.
For 4 comics?
For 4 comics, yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so I got to give a shout out though to Eli at Heroes. I told him that I would mention him on the show because he was a huge help helping me track these down. But this has some really interesting sort of like where they get into, I guess, what is it that like. So once they start to have battles between the heroes, there's like the different powers, right? So the Green Lanterns get to help the Flashes, as we were mentioning before, with their sort of respective powers.
And I love how Hal Jordan, to get the Flashes out of their little bubbles that are holding them, Hal Jordan makes like a bandsaw to try to saw through it. And Alan Scott has an axe.
He makes an axe, just showing their different eras.
That's right,
which is great. But I think what was sort of really interesting is the Green Lanterns sort of continue to be the save the day people, but we don't get much on their powers, which I kind of wish.
Well, they didn't. I don't think they wanted to really get into that much because they're completely separate. The Golden Age Green Lantern had no connection to any kind of
to Oa
or anything. He was just he had a lantern and he had a ring. And that was it. Now, when they came up with Hal Jordan as the Silver Age Green Lantern, they created this whole. He was like a space cop, basically.
Right.
But that never was the deal with Alan Scott. So if you get the two of them together and you talk much about it, you're going to have to deal with that.
Explain a lot.
Yeah, you have to explain a lot. Yeah.
Which I imagine as time went on, they probably did. I figured that was something that they were able to get into. So what's really cool is like they, after they meet the JSA, they do this big sort of hero swap because the magic is affecting the JLA and it won't affect the JSA, and then vice versa on the other planet. There was things that were affecting them that now the JLA can take on. And man, and it was so nice to have this comic. That was what I was going to say before. I apologize. There is a scene in the second comic, number 22, that I think is some of the best art of this age, as far as showing. Oh, here it is, pages 220 and 221. It sort of shows how the different age characters get together and defeat the villains.
Yeah.
And there's sort of these little mini vignettes. There's 6 of them. That's phenomenal. Like for me, like this was the real gem of the book. Yeah. It was like not just getting details of the story, but seeing art like this. Yeah. Like this inspired me, and it said like, wow, I can do this. I would love to.
I do like the Golden Age,
Silver Age mix.
The Silver Age, just the style of illustration. Although I'm so used to modern V-shaped heroes.
And seeing these guys, these
guys are thick through the middle.
Yeah, right. They're 50s and 60s strong.
Yeah, they're drawn to like they don't V in like bodybuilders like superheroes are drawn now.
Right.
They're almost a little tubby the way you look at them.
Everybody's a little older, right? Yeah. They're a little whiny in the face.
yeah, Jim Blossoms.
Yeah. But for me, I thought like this was really sort of the gem here. So just I think sort of a last thing that I thought was another little Easter egg in there was now just before all the villains are captured after this sort of big battle, everybody's trying to figure out. They go, well, if we found Earth 2, we can find Earth 3.
Maybe there's an Earth 3, and that's the villains try to find it, but they get interrupted before they could.
Right.
So they tease the existence of Earth 3. But don't actually get to it.
Right. So I think we sort of, from the Flash story and this one, we have now, there's one other thing to mention too, is that Kronos does do some transferring. The magicians make that misty borderland. They create it as a place where they can go. And it's kind of like, if you look in the comic, it's like a
lounge
pad.
It is, yeah. It's like a swinging bachelor pad.
Right, with with high tops at the bar.
That's
and
right.
A funky curve-shaped couch. So what we've seen, and I think this graphic, the main one, sort of summarizes the story between the two things, the two worlds, mapping finally this misty borderland place, plotting characters. That was sort of really what I went for, and to just sort of take us through this time with some notables. But so this one, this graphic, which I'll post as well.
And I think we'll post all these on our webpage too, the NinjaTrollDigicast.com.
Cool.
We're going to put those on there in like a gallery to where
you
can look all of them. Yeah,
exactly. And then I've labeled everything with the books so you can read them yourself and sort of compare and contrast. I think we really want to get the discussion on this going. The multiverse has a history, and it's nice to sort of see it in its current form through convergence, and then go back now and see how it's been imagined through time.
Yeah,
because you're right. This is what DC's about. This sort of gives us the why of so many things.
You have so many characters that are 75 years old, or if not more. You're going to have to do something like this. You're going to have to. There's going to be so many differences in this person wrote it this way. This editor decided he wanted to do this, and you're going to have to do that. There's going to have to be some kind of and Marvel has now had to get into that because. Their characters have been around since the 60s now. You're going to have to start dealing with that too.
Yeah.
So you have to do that. And there's still some kind of issues that aren't really explained, like Black Canary was with the Justice Society, but then you have a Silver Age Black Canary that's supposed to be
her daughter.
Right? Yeah. But she's Earth 2, not Earth 1.
Right. So how does it?
Yeah. How does that work? Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to see, right? So we started digging through. There's Multiversity. There's obviously Crisis, the Infinite Crisis, which I have. There's a great section in the Infinite Crisis that sort of recaps this. So I'm looking at all these different sort of instances of where they're trying to explain the multiverse and then trying to bring it back, for us so we can sort of understand what's going on. So I think we're going to look next at the Earth 3 story, which has
which one are we? Because it's, I mean, they've tapped into the Earth, because Earth 3 is the Earth of the crime syndicate.
Right.
It's the or Justice Lords. Is that what they called it?
The crime. Oh, hang
no,
on.
It was the crime syndicate.
It was the crime syndicate. Yeah, it's Ultraman who needs kryptonite to be strong.
Yeah.
Right. He's
Ultraman, Superwoman. Was it Owlman?
Owlman is the Batman.
Power Ring.
And forget Mr.
Johnny Quick.
Johnny Quick is.
Yeah.
Yep. Is the.
And he's like a meth head.
Is he? Really?
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends on when, because at different times they did that story years ago, so I'm sure they didn't tap into the meth head part of that story. But like now, he's all cracked out.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Power Ring, the ring is killing him, but he won't let it go.
That's like the ring from Sauron.
Yeah, basically,
Mordor.
yeah. It's killing him, but he won't let it go.
Oh.
So depending on what time period they do the story, it can be a little different.
This will be the original. So we're going to dip into Comixology, or perhaps the Crisis on Multiple Earths, which bundles all this.
It bundles all those, yeah.
It's Justice League of America number 29 and 30, which were published that same year.
Okay.
So what they were getting into, it seems like, was the annual or sort of maybe semi-annual JLA, JSA crossover.
Yeah.
And they sort of did that for a long time. So we're going to be looking at and cataloging these Earths. So Earth 3 is coming up next, which is quite interesting because Ultraman finds like a giant kryptonite rock, which powers him up. And then all of a sudden he's, with supervision, allowed to see Earth 1.
Oh, okay.
So that's how the crossover occurs. Okay. Yeah, so that's going to be a really interesting twist on it. So this is nice.
It's crazy that all of they have so many supervillains over there and only one superhero, which is Lex Luthor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
Just him.
That's it.
Alone.
And it's what he's always wanted. I mean, it's like, if you think about it, right, how it goes down. And then we're going to look at a Crisis on Earth A, which is from the next year, JLA 37, 38, 65.
Okay.
And then there's a whole bunch. There's like 15 Crisis stories. But we're going to sort of take that all the way. We'll get you the notable Earths, tell you who's who. We may even do a couple Earths in one episode because they're so small.
Yeah, like A and B, I think we could probably
combo up.
Combine together, yeah.
Earth X is really interesting.
Yep.
Earth Prime, which has Superboy.
Yeah.
Earth S is another one.
That was Shazam, wasn't it?
I forget who Earth S is. X is when they fight. Yep, it's Marvel Family. Okay. Crisis on Earth, Crisis in Eternity, Crisis on Earth S, and then Crisis in Tomorrow, which has some new heroes as well. But what I'm really enjoying is the complexity of the story gets bigger. Mm-hmm. I think our mapping is going to be an improvement on the sort of current maps that are out there that try to explain this stuff.
Yeah.
Because what we want to do is sort of take it, because really this is a way to handle having too many comic titles and too many heroes.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah.
So, our job, I think, is to recognize that, but then sort of like take it through time and show the amount of complexity that exists in this storyline. So that new readers of DC, I think, going into the revamps are going to know what's going on. Yeah. Right? And
it'd be interesting to, like we were talking about before we started the show, with Convergence, they had, at the end of Convergence, they showed some that we've not seen before. Mm-hmm. Different worlds of different combinations.
That Bat Lantern, right?
Whoa. I want to see that. I want to see, because it wasn't just, there was an Elseworld called Batman Darkest Night where he was chosen by the Ring. When Abin Sur crashed, Batman was chosen by the Ring instead of Hal Jordan.
Right.
But it was just him as the Green Lantern. On that, in the Convergence, you could see a different Flash. You could see a different Aquaflash. Yeah. There was a bunch of different. Yeah. So I want to see that. I want to see what's where that's coming from.
It looks really cool. I mean, and there's it's really like it's a dumping ground for where these characters could live. I mean, you can't let them float in the ether. So I think this is DC's way of doing it. Now, if they can refine the logic maybe we'll help him. Maybe we'll get him Timmy to that point. We'll get on staff and we'll write this mess.
I'll be the one walking around going, "You can't do that."
That'd be awesome.
That's right. Coming up, we're going to be, I think, leading up to the Crisis on Infinite Earths. That'll be in a couple episodes.
Yeah, that's going to be a big one.
We're just going to invite y'all to sort of join us as we go through this. I think it'll be exciting.
Yeah, as we explore the multiverse.
Yeah.